32 Park Avenue in Manhattan isn't just a building. It's a 1,396-foot-tall needle of glass and steel that cost $4.2 billion to pierce the New York skyline. Most people look up at those 96 floors and see the pinnacle of American wealth. My wife, Jessica, looked at it from her corner office on the 47th floor and saw her kingdom. She spent 3 years as the senior VP of marketing for Elevation Global, looking down at the street and eventually looking down at me. To her, and to everyone else in that lobby, I was just a ghost in a navy blue uniform, a broke janitor with a radio clipped to a worn-out belt and a bucket of gray water. Jessica never once asked who actually owned the building where she spent 10 hours a day. She was too busy enjoying the status that came with her six-figure salary and her invitations to those rooftop bars in Tribeca, where people talk about disrupting the market. I know exactly how she felt about me because I still have the high-definition security footage from the lobby, dated March 12th. I've watched it more times than I'd like to admit. In the video, I'm leaning against a marble pillar, adjusting a wet floor sign. Jessica walks in with Marcus Holloway, her CEO. She looks radiant in a $3,000 charcoal suit. As they pass me, Marcus makes a comment about the invisible people who keep the city running. Jessica didn't just ignore me, she laughed. A sharp, cold sound that echoed off the Italian limestone. "He's just a broke janitor, Marcus," she said, loud enough for me to hear. "Some men are just built for the basement." What she didn't know, what she couldn't even fathom, was that I wasn't working for a third-party maintenance contractor. I didn't have a boss. Mitchell Property Holdings LLC isn't just a name on a tax form registered in Delaware. It's the entity that owns 432 Park Avenue outright. No partners, no bank loans, just me. I've spent 15 years staying out of the public records, hidden behind a fortress of shell companies and non-disclosure agreements. I liked the invisibility. It allowed me to see the world for what it really was. It allowed me to see Jessica for who she really was. She thought she was cheating with the most powerful man in the building because Marcus Holloway had his name on the glass door of the 47th floor. She didn't realize that I was the one who signed the lease that allowed that door to exist. She didn't know that while she was planning a secret life with her boss, I was the one who owned the very roof over their heads. I didn't confront her that day in the lobby. I didn't scream or show my hand. I just squeezed the handle of my mop and watched them get into the elevator. I had spent 15 years building a foundation, and I knew that when you finally decide to pull the support beams, the collapse has to be total. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The real end didn't start in the lobby. It started in our bedroom, 3 months ago, with the soft, persistent buzz of a phone that should have been silent. The transition from a partner to a stranger doesn't happen all at once. It's a slow erosion like water hitting limestone. For 15 years, I watched Jessica climb. Every promotion at Elevation Global seemed to add a layer of ice to our dinner table. By the time she hit senior VP, I wasn't her husband anymore. I was a structural defect she was trying to renovate out of her life. Our home in Brooklyn reflected it. She filled the rooms with mid-century modern furniture that was too uncomfortable to sit on, and candles that smelled like expensive wood she'd never chopped. I kept the place running. I fixed the leaky faucets she ignored, and recalibrated the thermostat when she complained about the humidity. I was the silent engine under the hood of her high-speed life. She loved the results, but she hated the grease on my hands. She started coming home later, smelling of overpriced gin and the kind of confidence that only comes from being the most important person in a room. She'd walk past me while I was sitting at the kitchen island, scrolling through building maintenance logs, and she wouldn't even break her stride. She looked at my navy blue work shirt with a mixture of pity and revulsion, as if the very fabric was contagious. "You should change before dinner, Dan," she'd say without looking at me. "That uniform makes the house feel like a construction site." The foundation finally buckled on March 14th. It was 11:47 p.m. The house was quiet, except for the hum of the HVAC system I'd serviced just the week before. Jessica was in the bathroom. I could hear the rhythmic spray of the shower, and the steam began to curl under the door, carrying the scent of her $200 shampoo. Her phone was on the nightstand, screen up. It buzzed. A short, sharp vibration that felt like a needle pricking the silence. Then it buzzed again. And again. I'm a man of protocols. I believe in privacy. But when a phone lights up 4 times in 60 seconds after midnight, it's not a work emergency. It's an intrusion. I picked it up. The name on the screen was M. Work. Simple. Professional. But the messages were anything but. 11:43 p.m. Still thinking about last night. 11:44 p.m. Your husband really doesn't know? 11:46 p.m. You're incredible, I mean that. 11:47 p.m. Can't wait for Monaco next week. I didn't feel my heart race. I didn't feel the urge to scream. As a maintenance supervisor, you learn that when a pipe bursts, you don't panic. You find the shutoff valve. I looked at the messages, and for the first time in years, everything Jessica had been doing made sense. The late nights, the sudden leadership retreats, the way she'd recoil if I'd tried to brush my hand against hers. I took a breath, memorizing the timestamps. I still have those screenshots today, backed up on 3 different encrypted drives. I wanted to make sure that when the time came, there would be no misunderstandings. I placed the phone back at the exact 15-degree angle it had been at. When the shower stopped and Jessica walked out, wrapped in a white towel and smiling at her screen, I was already asleep, staring into the dark with my eyes wide open. I spent the next 48 hours doing what I do best, auditing the damage. I didn't need to hire a private investigator. I own the building she works in. I have access to every digital footprint she leaves behind. I logged into our joint iCloud account, the one she thought was for boring family photos. She never realized our calendars were still synced. I sat in my home office at 3 a.m., the blue light of the monitor reflecting off my glasses, and I watched the map of her lies unfold. March 9th, dinner at the grill, $450 on the company card. March 12th, a private event at the Plaza Hotel. And then there was the Monaco leadership retreat. I pulled up our joint credit card statement. This was the account I funded every month to cover our household needs, while I was buying $47 worth of replacement bolts at Home Depot and eating $12 sandwiches at the deli. Jessica was busy. February 24th, $3,200 at Bergdorf Goodman. March 3rd, $950 at La Mer Spa. March 8th, $8,400 at Cartier. She was using my money to dress herself for another man. She was using my hard work to fund the luxury that Marcus Holloway was currently enjoying for free. The arrogance of it was what struck me. She didn't even try to hide the charges. She was so convinced of my insignificance that she thought I wouldn't even look at the bill. Jessica thought money could buy respect, but she forgot that character is priceless. If you believe in justice and want to see karma in action, subscribe and join our community. It's the best way to ensure these stories are heard. I decided to verify the final piece of the puzzle. I called the office manager at Elevation Global, a woman named Linda. I'd helped Linda out a few months back when the AC in her office died during a heat wave. I called from the maintenance office, my voice calm and professional. "Hey, Linda. It's Dan from maintenance." Jessica forgot her laptop charger and mentioned something about a retreat in Monaco next week. "Is there a courier I should give it to?" There was a long pause. "Monaco? Dan, there's no retreat. The whole marketing team is supposed to be in the office next week for the quarterly review. Is she taking personal time?" "Must have been my mistake, Linda. Thanks." I hung up the phone. It wasn't a mistake. It was a calculated exit strategy. The Mark Hotel, March 16th, 11:40 p.m. On March 16th, I followed her, not because I needed more proof, but because I needed to see the face of the man who thought he could steal from a broke janitor. I sat in my truck across the street from the Mark Hotel on East 77th Street. It's a place where rooms go for $900 a night, a place where people go when they want to be seen, but only by the right people. At 11:40 p.m., the gold-trimmed doors opened. Marcus Holloway stepped out first. He looked exactly like his Forbes profile. Expensive haircut, a charcoal suit that fit him like armor, and a smirk that said he'd never lost a day in his life. He adjusted his tie, looking around with the predatory confidence of a CEO. Then Jessica walked out. She looked happy. She looked like the woman I'd married 15 years ago, except that look wasn't for me. Her hair was slightly disheveled, and she was laughing at something he whispered in her ear. She leaned in, kissed his cheek, and watched as he slid into a black Mercedes S-Class. I sat in the dark cab of my truck, my hands steady on the steering wheel. I watched her walk to her Audi, check her reflection in the window, and drive away. I beat her home by 20 minutes. When she walked through the front door at 12:30 a.m., I was on the couch, the TV on mute. "Client meeting ran long," she said, dropping her keys on the marble counter. She didn't even look at me. "I'm exhausted." "No problem," I said, my voice as flat as a concrete slab. "I ordered Thai if you're hungry." "I already ate," she replied, heading for the bedroom. I stayed on the couch for a long time after the bedroom door closed. I didn't feel like a victim. I felt like a contractor looking at a building that was beyond repair. You don't try to fix a structure this rotten, you prepare for a controlled demolition. I opened my laptop one last time that night. I didn't look at her photos. I looked at the lease agreement for the 47th floor of 432 Park Avenue. Marcus Holloway's company, Elevation Global, had a clause regarding morality and corporate conduct. And as the owner of the building, I had a very specific set of rights regarding who I allowed to stay under my roof. The silence was over. It was time to start the paperwork. When you're a maintenance supervisor, you spend your life looking for the stress points. You look for the hairline fracture in a support beam, or the slight tremor in an elevator cable that tells you a disaster is coming. You don't wait for the collapse. You study the blueprints. The blueprint for Marcus Holloway's destruction was sitting in a locked digital vault under the name Elevation Global Lease Agreement, 47th floor. I didn't go back to sleep after watching Jessica walk into our home, smelling like the Mark Hotel. Instead, I waited until 4 a.m., drove back to 432 Park Avenue, and bypassed the security desk. I didn't enter as Dan the janitor. I used the service elevator to reach the sub-basement, where Mitchell Property Holdings maintains a private, unmarked server room. I pulled up the documents. Marcus's company was occupying 45,000 square feet of prime Manhattan real estate. His current lease was set to expire on March 31st, exactly 17 days away. According to the contract, he had a right of first refusal to renew, but there was a specific technical catch that Marcus, in his infinite CEO-level arrogance, had clearly overlooked. Clause 14.4. The landlord reserves the right to deny renewal if the tenant fails to maintain a liquidity ratio of 2.1, or if the tenant is involved in any litigation that threatens the reputation of the building. I knew for a fact that Elevation Global was bleeding cash. I'd seen the internal memos Jessica left lying around our kitchen. They were overextended on a new tech campaign that was cratering. They needed this renewal to secure a $200 million line of credit from their bank. Without a physical headquarters in a Tier 1 building like mine, their credit rating would vanish overnight. I picked up the secure landline and called Arthur Vance, my lead counsel. Arthur has been with me since 2009. He's the only man who knows exactly how many zeros are in my bank account. "Arthur, it's Dan. I'm looking at the Elevation Global lease for the 47th floor. The Holloway Group?" Arthur's voice was gravelly but sharp. "They're due for renewal. My team was preparing the paperwork for your signature next week." "Change of plans," I said, watching the security feed of the empty 47th floor lobby on the monitor in front of me. "Deny the renewal. Cite Clause 14.4, financial instability. I want a formal notice of non-renewal on Marcus Holloway's desk by 9 a.m. And Arthur, don't use my name. Use the LLC. They'll fight it, Dan. Holloway is litigious. He thinks he owns the city. Let him fight. He's fighting a ghost. Just get it done." At 8:30 a.m., I was back in my navy blue uniform. I was in the lobby of 432 Park Avenue, buffing the marble floors near the main elevators. I wanted to be there. I wanted to see the moment the first support beam snapped. Marcus Holloway arrived at 8:52 a.m. He looked flawless as usual. Beside him was Jessica. She was wearing a new white coat, likely bought with the $3,200 she'd charged to our joint card at Bergdorf's. She didn't even glance at me as she stepped over the wet floor sign I'd placed near the elevator bank. "Make sure you get those scuff marks near the corner, Dan," she said. her voice dripping with that casual condescension she'd perfected over the last 3 years. "It's embarrassing for the clients." "I'll get right on it, Jessica," I replied. I watched the elevator doors close, the brass numbers above the door ticking up. 10, 20, 30, 47. Upstairs, Marcus would find a courier waiting. A man in a plain suit holding a manila envelope. Inside that envelope was the death warrant for his company's expansion plans. I checked my radio. I had a clogged drain report on the 47th floor. A small gift I'd arranged for myself by slightly backing up the executive washroom sensors earlier that morning. It gave me the perfect excuse to be there. When I entered the Elevation Global Suite 10 minutes later, the atmosphere had shifted from high-powered corporate energy to pure, unadulterated panic. Marcus was in his glass-walled office, screaming into a phone. Jessica was standing by the window, her face pale, clutching a stack of papers. "What do you mean, denied?" Marcus's voice boomed through the glass. "We've been here for 5 years. Who the hell is Mitchell Property Holdings? I want a face-to-face with the owner. Now." He slammed the phone down and turned to Jessica. "The bank is going to pull the line of credit if we don't have a signed lease by Friday. If we lose the 47th floor, we lose everything." Jessica looked like she was about to vomit. "Marcus, there has to be a mistake. We're their biggest tenant. Maybe if I talk to the building management." I walked past them carrying my tool bucket and a plunger. I didn't say a word. I just went into the executive bathroom, locked the door, and listened. Through the thin vents, I could hear Marcus pacing. "The owner is refusing to meet," Marcus hissed. "They cited financial instability. Someone leaked our liquidity reports, Jessica. Someone is trying to bury us." I stood there in the quiet of the bathroom, looking at my reflection in the mirror, the broke janitor they both despised. I felt a cold, surgical satisfaction. This was just the foundation. I hadn't even started on the walls yet. What Dan is about to do will dismantle everything Jessica and Marcus built. To make sure you never miss the final blow in stories like this, hit the subscribe button now. You won't want to miss what's coming. By noon, the news had hit the internal grapevines. Elevation Global was in trouble. Jessica called me at 12:15 p.m. I let it ring 3 times before answering. "Dan," she sounded breathless. "I might be late tonight. Something came up at work. A legal issue with the office space." "That sounds serious," I said, leaning against my mop in the service hallway. "Do you need me to pick up dinner?" No, I'll figure it out, just don't wait up." She hung up. She didn't ask how my day was. She didn't mention the scuff marks she'd complained about earlier. She was too busy trying to figure out how to save her status. I went back to the server room. I checked Marcus's outgoing emails. He was getting desperate. He'd sent 3 messages to his board of directors lying about the situation, claiming it was a temporary clerical error by the landlord. But then, he sent a 4th email. This one wasn't to the board. It was to a private account. Subject: emergency. Message: I need that offshore account cleared today. If the landlord won't renew, we need to move the cash before the auditors freeze the corporate assets. Meet me at the usual spot tonight. 9 p.m. My eyes narrowed. Marcus wasn't just a failing CEO and a homewrecker. He was an embezzler. He was planning to bail out and leave his employees, and likely Jessica, holding the bag. I looked at the clock. 1 p.m. I had 8 hours to make sure that usual spot was the last place Marcus Holloway ever felt safe. But I needed one more thing. I needed to know exactly where that money was coming from. Because if Marcus was stealing from his company, there was a high probability he was using Jessica's department to launder it. I picked up my radio. "This is Dan. I'm heading up to 47 for a routine HVAC inspection in the CEO's suite. Clear the service corridor." It was time to see how deep the rot really went. When you own a building like 432 Park Avenue, you don't just own the walls, you own the air inside them. Every fiber optic cable, every hidden conduit, and every security sensor in that 47th floor executive suite was an extension of my nervous system. Marcus Holloway thought he was safe behind his soundproof glass. He didn't realize that I had designed that suite with a specific override for maintenance emergencies. a feature that allowed me to bypass the digital encryption of his private office cameras from the sub-basement server room. I spent the afternoon of March 16th in the guts of the building. While Jessica was upstairs frantically trying to figure out how to save her reputation, I was 6 floors below street level, staring at a wall of monitors. I wasn't just watching them. I was recording their downfall in 4K resolution. At 8:45 p.m., the cleaning crew finished their sweep of the 47th floor. The lights dimmed automatically, leaving only the soft, ambient glow of the New York skyline bleeding through the floor-to-ceiling windows. I saw the elevator lights blink. Marcus and Jessica stepped out. They didn't go to dinner. They didn't go to the usual spot at a bar. They went straight into Marcus's inner sanctum. I turned up the audio on my headset. The high-sensitivity microphones I'd calibrated for the HVAC system picked up the sound of Jessica's rapid breathing and the sharp click of Marcus's laptop opening. "The board is breathing down my neck, Jessica." Marcus's voice was strained, the predatory confidence of the morning replaced by a desperate, jagged edge. "If the landlord doesn't bend by tomorrow morning, the auditors will be in here by noon. We have to move the discretionary fund now." "But Marcus," Jessica said, her voice trembling. I watched her on the screen. She was leaning over his desk, her face illuminated by the cold blue light of the laptop. "That money is for the Q3 payroll and the vendor contracts. If we move it to the offshore account in the Caymans, the company will collapse by Friday." Marcus looked up at her, and for a second I saw the man behind the Forbes cover. He looked like a cornered animal. "The company is already dead, Jessica. The landlord killed it when they denied the lease. But you and I, we don't have to die with it. There's $6 million in that fund. Once it's in the private account, we leave for Monaco on Saturday. We start over, but I need your clearance code to authorize the transfer from the marketing budget." I watched Jessica hesitate. For 15 years I had known this woman. I had seen her strive, seen her sacrifice her integrity for a title. I wondered if she'd finally hit a floor she wouldn't sink below. Is it legal?" she whispered. "It's survival," Marcus snapped. "Do you want to go back to Brooklyn and live with a janitor in a house that smells like pine sol? Or do you want the villa in Cap d'Antibes?" Jessica didn't hesitate for long. She reached out and typed her secondary authorization code into the terminal. I watched the progress bar on my monitor. Authorization verified. Transfer initiated. I still have that specific video file. It's labeled Exhibit A1. In it, you can see the exact moment Jessica signs her own prison sentence. She thought she was choosing a villa. She was actually choosing a cell. I didn't stop there. As the $6.2 million began its digital journey through a series of shell companies, I initiated a traceback protocol. I'd spent $200,000 on a cybersecurity firm last year just to protect my own LLC's assets, and I used their tools to tag Marcus's transfer with a digital die. No matter where that money went, Panama, Zurich, or the Caymans, it would leave a glowing trail that any forensic accountant could follow in their sleep. I watched them on the screen. They were celebrating. Marcus opened a bottle of $500 scotch he kept in the credenza. He poured 2 glasses. "To Monaco," Marcus said, raising his glass. "To us," Jessica replied. She looked at him with a mix of relief and adoration that made my stomach turn. I looked at my radio on the desk. I could have called the police right then. I could have had the NYPD waiting at the service entrance, but that would have been too quick. A building doesn't just fall over. It creaks and groans until the very last second. I wanted them to feel the weight of the structure before it crushed them. What Dan is about to do will dismantle everything Jessica and Marcus built. To make sure you never miss the final blow in stories like this, hit the subscribe button now. You won't want to miss what's coming. I waited until they left the building at 10:30 p.m. I watched them walk out of the lobby, once again stepping past the wet floor sign I'd left out. They were laughing now, oblivious to the fact that the broke janitor was sitting in the dark 300 feet below them, holding their entire lives in the palm of his hand. I drove home. I made sure to arrive after Jessica. When I walked in, she was already in bed, looking at travel websites on her iPad. "How was the legal issue?" I asked, hanging my work shirt in the laundry room. "Stressful," she said, not looking up. "But Marcus handled it. We might have to go to Europe a few days early for that retreat. Some urgent meetings in France. France, I repeated. That sounds expensive. Can we afford that on a senior VP's salary? Jessica finally looked at me. There was a spark of the old arrogance in her eyes, a flash of the woman who laughed at me in the lobby. Don't worry about the money, Dan. You worry about the elevators, I'll worry about the future. Fair enough, I said. I went to my office and pulled a single sheet of paper from my drawer. It was a formal invitation to a private shareholders and building ownership meeting scheduled for March 31st, the day the lease expired. I'd already sent one to Marcus Holloway's board of directors. I'd sent one to the district attorney's office, and now I was going to hand-deliver one to my wife. I spent the rest of the night checking the morality clause in Jessica's employment contract. It stated that any employee involved in the misappropriation of corporate funds would not only be fired, but would forfeit all stock options and severance. She thought she was leaving me for a billionaire. She didn't realize she was leaving me to become a felon. I looked out the window at the New York skyline. The lights of 432 Park Avenue were glowing in the distance, a $4, $2 billion monument to my silence. The demolition was scheduled for 9:01 a.m. on March 31st, and I had the best seat in the house. The air on the 96th floor of 432 Park Avenue felt different that morning. It was thin, cold, and smelled of ozone and expensive floor wax. This was the summit, the highest boardroom in the Western Hemisphere. Below us, the rest of New York City looked like a collection of toy blocks, insignificant and fragile. I arrived early. I didn't change into a suit. I wore my navy blue work shirt, my heavy-duty trousers, and my steel-toed boots. I sat at the head of a 30-foot conference table made of reclaimed oak that cost more than most people's homes. To my left sat Arthur Vance and two forensic accountants. To my right sat Detective Miller from the DA's white-collar crime division. We waited in silence. At 9:05 a.m., the heavy oak doors swung open. Marcus Holloway marched in first. He was wearing a $5,000 pinstripe suit, holding a leather briefcase like a shield. Behind him was Jessica. She looked impeccable, hair pulled back, wearing diamond earrings I'd never seen before. She was carrying a stack of revised lease documents she'd spent the night preparing. They didn't see me at first. They were looking at the lawyers. Finally, Marcus boomed, his voice echoing off the glass walls. I've been trying to get a meeting with Mitchell Property Holdings for 3 weeks. Let's sign these papers so we can all get back to work. I have a flight to catch to the south of France. Jessica stepped forward, placing the documents on the table. She looked down at Arthur Vance. We've made some adjustments to the liquidity clauses. I'm sure your principal will find them more than fair. Then she looked to the head of the table. The color didn't just drain from her face. It vanished. She froze, her hand still resting on the papers. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Marcus followed her gaze, his smirk curdling into a mask of pure confusion. What is this? Marcus spat, looking at Arthur. Why is the janitor sitting in that chair? Get this man out of here. This is a private executive session. I leaned back, the leather of the executive chair creaking under my weight. The chair is mine, Marcus. The table is mine. Everything you can see from these windows, including the floor you're standing on, belongs to me. Dan? Jessica's voice was a ghost of a whisper. She looked at my uniform, then at the lawyers, then back at me. Dan, what are you doing? Is this a joke? You fix the sinks. I fix a lot of things, Jessica, I said, my voice as cold as the glass behind me. I fix structural failures, I fix leaks. And today I'm fixing a $6.2 million hole in the Elevation Global Discretionary Fund. Arthur Vance slid a laptop toward the center of the table and pressed play. The screen flickered to life. It was a high-angle shot of Marcus's office from 2 nights ago. The resolution was so clear you could see the sweat on Marcus's forehead as he typed. You could see Jessica leaning over him, whispering her authorization code. You could hear every word of their plan to abandon the company and flee to Monaco with the stolen cash. Marcus didn't move. He looked like a man watching his own execution. That video was recorded via the building's emergency management system, Arthur said, his voice clinical. At 8:47 p.m. that night, $640,000 was transferred from Elevation Global to a shell company in the Cayman Islands. We tracked the digital signature. It matches the IP address of this building and the private credentials of CEO Marcus Holloway and Senior VP Jessica Mitchell. Detective Miller stood up. He didn't say a word. He just placed a pair of steel handcuffs on the oak table. The sound of the metal hitting the wood was the loudest thing in the room. "Dan, honey, please," Jessica started, her voice cracking. She stepped toward me, her hands reaching out. "Marcus forced me. He said we were in trouble. I didn't know it was illegal. I did it for us, for our future." "Our future ended at 11:47 p.m. on March 14th, I said, looking her directly in the eye. "When I read the messages from M. Work while you were in the shower, I watched you kiss him at the Mark Hotel, Jessica. I watched you laugh at me in the lobby. You didn't do this for us. You did this because you thought I was invisible." I turned my attention to Marcus. He was shaking now, his predatory confidence completely shattered. "The board of directors of Elevation Global was notified of this meeting an hour ago," I continued. "They've already voted. You're terminated for cause, effective immediately. And since I own the debt your company owes to the bank, I've decided to call in the loan. Elevation Global is finished. By noon, the doors to the 47th floor will be permanently locked." Marcus tried to bolt. He made a move for the door, but Detective Miller was faster. He grabbed Marcus's arm, spun him around, and slammed him against the glass wall. The sound of the handcuffs clicking shut was the most satisfying noise I'd heard in 15 years. "Marcus Holloway, you're under arrest for grand larceny, embezzlement, and wire fraud," Miller recited. Jessica collapsed into one of the velvet chairs, burying her face in her hands. She wasn't crying for me. She wasn't crying for her marriage. She was crying for the life she just lost. "Arthur," I said, not looking away from my wife, "remind her of the morality clause." "Of course," Arthur replied. "Jessica, per your employment contract, all stock options, bonuses, and severance are forfeited due to criminal misconduct. Additionally, under the terms of your prenuptial agreement, which you signed in 2011, any act of proven infidelity or criminal activity during the marriage nullifies your right to any share of Mitchell Property Holdings assets." I stood up. I felt lighter than I had in a decade. I walked over to Jessica. She looked up at me, her eyes red, her diamond earrings sparkling in the morning sun. Diamonds that would likely be seized by the state within 48 hours. "You told me once that some men were built for the basement, Jessica," I said quietly. "You were wrong. Some men just prefer to see the foundation before they decide which floors to keep. I'm keeping the building. You're leaving with nothing but the clothes you stole." I signaled to the 2 security guards waiting by the door, men who had worked for me for years. "Escort them out. Use the service elevator. I don't want them upsetting the high-paying tenants in the lobby." The demolition was total. Marcus Holloway is currently serving 8 to 12 years in a federal penitentiary in upstate New York. His disruptive leadership ended with a blue jumpsuit and a prison number. His assets were liquidated to pay back the millions he stole, leaving him with a net worth of 0. Jessica didn't go to prison, but in some ways, her punishment was worse. She was blacklisted from every marketing firm in the country. Without a dime to her name and a reputation in tatters, she moved back to her parents' house in a small town in Ohio. The last I heard, she was working as a receptionist at a local car dealership. She spends her days looking at the same travel websites, dreaming of a life that was never hers to begin with. I still live in Brooklyn, but I sold the house with the mid-century furniture. I bought a quiet loft overlooking the harbor. I still wear the navy blue uniform sometimes. I still walk the halls of 432 Park Avenue. Not because I have to, but because I like to remind myself that a building is only as strong as the people inside it. Integrity isn't something you can buy with a 6-figure salary or a corner office. It's the steel in the foundation. It's what stays standing when everything else falls away. The truth always finds its way out. If you value integrity and want to support stories that deliver real justice, please subscribe. Welcome to the community, and I'll see you in the next one.